this special edition of Portraits here on Cable 12, your community channel here on the Cable Bahamas cable network. Today we have a very special guest to share his story. Former elite athlete, scholar, medical doctor, consultant psychiatrist, and reverend. Our guest today, and I want you to help me to welcome the one and only Dr. Timothy Barrett. Tim, I just thought I'd throw that one and only on top of there for you. Never introduced any of my guests like that, but you are the one and only golden boy.
Appreciate that.
It's just an absolute pleasure to have you here. How you feeling?
I'm great. It's an honor. It's a privilege. I've seen portraits before. I've seen the people that you have on portraits. I've heard their stories. So I'm feeling kind of privileged here to be counted among ones who have been chosen.
I thank you for that. I thank you for that. And I must tell you that people have approached and said, why are you not talking to Dr. Barrett? And I said, one day we will. And this is why I asked. Again, welcome and thank you for having Cable 12 in your home. Want to get right to it, Dr. Barrett. First of all, I want you to tell us about your early environment, what your early environment was like. And you were a hill topper. You know that term? You consider yourself that?
I'm a hill topper.
Can you give our audience an idea of what that means?
That means that you're from the top of the hill.
Okay. Meeting Street?
Meeting Street.
Okay.
Delancey Street.
Okay.
Even going up towards the Priory and
Okay.
Xavier's Cathedral.
Okay.
The hilltoppers were persons who lived up there, the Adderleys.
I think Wallace Whitfield was also there.
I'm not quite sure.
Okay,
about,
I think he was through one of
the Wares.
Yes. Yes.
Like I said, the
Vanderpools.
Vanderpools.
Granville Bain, I think, hails
Granville Bain. Yeah.
Now, what was there something special happening amongst that area, or just another unique kind of village or neighborhood?
Well, I didn't understand hilltopper until years later.
Yes.
Because growing up, that's where we lived. we knew the people in the area.
Yeah.
We had community then. We had community. Remember, now my grandfather was the bishop of the Diocese Native Baptist Diocese of Churches.
Okay.
So
is that St. John's then?
St. John's.
On Meeting Street?
On Meeting Street.
Okay.
And we lived right across the street. In fact, I was born in the house across the street, in the actual house.
Okay.
But the church served as the community center, so that when somebody died, the church would ritualistically ring the bell, toll the bell.
Literally?
Literally.
Wow.
When I was sexton for the church for a couple of years in my mid-teens, 14, 15. Okay. So it didn't matter what time anybody died. You had to go, doesn't matter what time, day or night it is.
Wow. Okay.
You got the news. Okay. All right. We only had 5 digits in our telephones then. Okay. you got the news, and you went and you tolled the bell.
Okay.
And a fast ring, bing, 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 bing. This alerts everybody that, okay, you're going to have a slow toll now. Okay. Then you leave a pause and you start the slow toll. And you toll the number of years of the person who died.
Okay.
And so everybody would be counting with you.
Okay.
But this went to all the community because nobody had windows closed with air conditioning on. So everybody was going to hear it in the area.
I wanted to back up and have you kind of explain what you mean by community, and then give some examples of that concept. But you mentioned in these interviews, I always like my guests to try and give the viewers, especially our young viewers, a sense of, if you look left and right at that time when you were a child, what you would see. Yeah. But you said literally, air conditioning was just not done. I mean, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah. I
Who
didn't,
had air conditioning? I mean, did
nobody
anyone?
had air conditioning. I didn't know what it was to be hot until I became an adult.
Okay.
You didn't, I can't remember complaining about being hot at night and not being able to get to sleep.
Yeah.
You went to
Yeah.
bed and you went to sleep. I just, it's different now, yes.
Yes.
But community, if I can give you a snapshot, was,
What did it mean then?
well, it was the whole area. If you went east, you'd find Mr. Turnquest on the southern side of Meeting Street. You'd find Mr. Allen, that's David Allen's father, on just as you went on to Dillard Street, because Meeting Street goes into Dillard Street for a short period of time
Yes.
before you get to Blue Hill Road.
And plenty salty from Mr. Allen. I might as well tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you went down towards South Street and you had Mr. Gonzalez, and you passed the Wares, and you would come across to the Carters, their shop.
This is Charles Carter's family.
Charles Carter's family. His
Okay.
mother had an upholstery shop. And then you go down the hill to the Carters, and you'd come up and you'd find the little playground where we played in the schoolyard where we had a...
Now, what school was that?
I can't remember the name of that school, and for the life of me, I've been trying to remember.
On Meeting Street? Off Meeting Street?
Off Meeting Street, down Augusta Street.
Okay.
Right.
Now, I went there later on, and I think it was called Western Prep number 3.
Okay, it might have been Western Prep number 3.
And now the one I'm talking about is just on the side, kind of to the rear of St. John's.
Yes,
Native
yes,
School. Western
yes.
Prep number 3.
Western Prep number 3. Okay.
Yeah. I had a great principal there.
I'm
too.
horrible with names. But I started out going to Western Junior, which was up off Blue Hill Road, where T.G. Glover was.
Okay.
was
Now,
principal.
Mother Donaldson
Mother Donaldson.
existed when you were a child, or that came later? Also went there?
Mother D. You went to the kindergarten?
Yes. Yes, I did.
People.
My favorite time was lunchtime.
I mean, they would kill to get in that kindergarten.
Oh, yes.
Because by the time you came out of kindergarten, you could read, you could write, you knew please and thank you. You knew how to use a knife and fork.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a brilliant educator.
How is she related?
That's my grandmother. That's my mother's mother.
Okay.
That's my mother's mother.
Okay. Tim, the time really moves in these interviews, so we want to get to a couple of quick points. Again, when you think of early childhood, what do you remember about your parents, brothers, sisters, friends? Who did you run with 5, 6, 7 years old?
Ooh, 5, 6, 7 years old. Well, the earliest memory of my father is that he had a stroke.
Wow.
Yeah. My father had a stroke on the right side of his brain, fortunately, that affected his whole left side.
Okay.
So he's paralyzed all the way down on the left side. And he was in bed. Rehabilitation was playing with his children, as I can recall.
Okay.
We would take a tennis ball and we'd go in and we'd put it in his hand and see if he could squeeze it, put it and take it out and laugh and run and come back. Until one day he said, bring the tennis ball. And we put it in his hand. I put it in his hand. And he squeezed it and I couldn't get it out. Right. And that's very, very clear in my memory. My father was a big man, mesomorph. Big shoulders, broad. My mother described him
Where
as
did he
having...
hail from?
Jamaica. My father came from Brownstown, St. Anne, where the Barretts are from. In fact, the Moulton Barretts. I'm a Moulton Barrett. If you look in the history of where we got our name, Samuel Moulton Barrett was a plantation owner and a slave owner, who was the father of Elizabeth Barrett, who went on to marry Robert Browning, who was the son of another plantation owner in Jamaica.
Wow.
And they eloped and got married because Elizabeth Barrett Browning was on the cover of Ebony magazine. Now, Ebony magazine does not have Caucasians on their cover. So they would say, look at the Negroid features of her and her son. Samuel Moulton Barrett had 11 children with black women, but he forbade his children to marry. He didn't want the blood line to be continued.
Okay.
That's why she eloped
Okay.
with Robert Browning.
Okay. Is there things weren't very complicated back there, were they?
No, not at all.
Is there a friend, a non-sibling that you have memories of playing with very early?
You know, we were encouraged to
Stay in the yard?
play with family. I used to go to the prairie whenever I had the opportunity, but remember, I didn't play much. My father had a shoe store. My earliest memory is working in the shoe store.
Okay.
So
that shoe store was on?
The shoe store was first on East Bay Street. He had a shoe store on East Bay, okay? And then the shoe store moved to Blue Hill Road on 2 locations. The last location being about 1 block just south of St. Agnes Church on that same side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
All right. Grew up in St. Agnes? Did you grow up in St. Agnes Church?
no. My relationship with St. Agnes was that I had to pass it to go to the shop.
You would have been your father's church.
That's right.
That's right. Sorry.
I had to pass it to go to the shop, and I had to go through Coburn Street,
Right.
all right, to get to Mrs. Enos's house, Dr. and Mrs. Enos,
Right.
where she would teach me piano. She was
Okay.
my piano teacher.
Okay. What do you remember then, moving along, about your life as a young boy through teens and high school, and again, your version of government high school? We've run into this a couple of times. I need to understand, did you think it was special? Did you feel special there? What is it about this government high school, as they say,
The government high school. It was special. You had to sit an examination, and you had to be one of the ones who passed. So you'd have 600 people sitting, and they'd taken about a little over 100 for 3 forms. Okay, and in that time, you had to pay to attend government high school. There was a fee. You had to pay, and you didn't pay if you sat in the family island, in one of the family islands, and you passed. You got some assistance with your...
Government would handle that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
When you came, the 4 highest marks in the examination would amount to New Providence scholars. And so they would be on scholarship for the whole time that they were in government high school.
Okay.
I was a New Providence scholar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. You had a love for learning very early? I mean, a conscious love for it, or were you simply in a process that made you perform? And also, when did you discover your athletic prowess?
And I was curious. I always wanted to find things, you know, about the body. So I was curious. It was
On
easy.
your own?
Yes. Oh yeah. In fact, my jumping style in triple jump was I developed that on the sidewalk of my father's shoe store. You know.
On the sidewalk?
Yeah, because I had to work in the shoe store.
Okay.
You know, when children got out of school for summer and other breaks, they went to play. I went to work.
Okay.
I looked forward to going back to school. That was a break from work.
Okay.
But I was curious, and it was easy for me to learn and adapt to techniques.
Okay.
So
this curiosity moved you forward in terms of your academics as well as your sporting.
Yeah.
Okay. But when did you realize, wait, I seem to have an ability? I mean, there must have been a point at which it started to show.